Hello, everybody. My name is Jacob Albrecht, and today I'm going to be talking about why I think Star Wars Episode 7 brought us. I'm going to compare it to somewhere between The Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, and I'm going to give my reasons why I think this movie really actually either it's even in superiority to the originals and or even better in many ways. And I know my views are a little bit controversial, but unlike the prequels, these movies are a lot this new movie is a lot easier to support. This movie has constantly gotten great reviews from most people. You've got a few people from on the internet or people you'll meet. They'll say this is a terrible movie. I have not run into anyone in person who with these beliefs. But they are out there. But I think the reason, if you were to listen to each of these people, especially on the internet, the reason for their discontent with the new episode is because of plot rehashing. That's their accusation. Reuse of plot points from virtually, because they actually recycled some basic plot points from all three of the original films. And they even made a small reference to the Attack of the Clones. Albeit small, but this mostly borrows from the original trilogy. Whenever they do reference movies or whenever they rehash plot points, it's always from them. And so, I've seen the movie The Force Awakens the second time. I saw it about a week ago in 3D, and I saw it today again in 3D, and the 3D in this movie is not really disruptive. The 3D is actually kind of, you don't really notice it a whole lot, unless there's like a couple scenes where, let's say, a Star Destroyer comes up and the pointy part of it, or the tip of it, comes right near your face and you feel that. That's about the extent of, or maybe when TIE fighters are getting close. This movie is really good on letting you stay focused on the actual movie itself instead of its visuals, albeit its visuals are incredible. They're very good for our time. So the thing about this movie most people don't like, who are in this field of, I'm not really that satisfied with the movie, or I don't think it's as good as the original trilogy. Well, for an example, I'm going to go back to something a lot of Star Wars fans know about. This is called Star Wars, the game Knights of the Old Republic. And this game came out, I think, in the early 2000s. Yeah, it's somewhere in there. And there were two games, and most people like both of them. They both are very similar in the way that they take Star Wars lore and they expand them while rehashing many plot points just to make it so you know it's Star Wars. And it takes place in a different era. Now, the thing with this movie is that it's a lot like that. Personally, whenever let's say, for example, there's Starkiller Base, and that's supposed to be like a planet-sized version of the Death Star. Instead of, that's a small moon. That's no small moon, it's a space station. It's a planet, not a small moon, and not necessarily a space. Yes, a space station on a big planet, an ice world of some sort. And I guess they have the core of the planet emptied out to contain the stars that they're constantly sucking up for energy every time they want to fire their rounds into Republic worlds or Republic bases. So that's how Starkiller Base is used. And the name Starkiller, they took that name and said, hey, we have this cool name that was originally meant for the character Luke Skywalker, and we're gonna make homage to that and use that as Starkiller Base. But literally, this base is a Starkiller Base. It takes stars and it puts them. It's like a water gun. It's like taking up the sun and just firing the sun out, little pieces bit by bit, I guess. That's kind of the concept. And I think it's a really cool concept, and I actually like how they handle Starkiller Base much better than the originals. I'm going to explain this more in detail, but first I'm going to explain my personal justification, which I think is pretty rational, because us as fans, I believe, as I'll explain, tend to be very hypocritical. So Knights of the Old Republic is revered by all Star Wars fans, at least the first one. And most people, I've never seen a person who doesn't like the second one. KOTOR 2, even on the internet. So that should be a pretty good argument. KOTOR, they practically rip off the Millennium Falcon, and in the second KOTOR, which everyone likes, in many ways, just a continuation of the first KOTOR. There's that character Kreia, who is basically a female version of Obi-Wan. She's old, experienced, and she knows the ways of the Force. And the only difference between her and Ben is that she's a Sith, and you don't find that out to the end, but you always get the creepy vibe from her earlier on. You always get a sense that something was kind of wrong with her. Just when you see how she looks when they introduce the character, you can tell something's really wrong with her. So that's a main difference, but they really ripped off a lot of plot points. I mean, they have their astromech droid, and they have the scoundrel on board. If you ask me, KOTOR ripped off Star Wars more than The Force Awakens ever ripped off anything. So let's just lay it logically. Let's proceed to lay out every single rehash of the original trilogy in The Force Awakens. There is, at the beginning, you have a person who's captured, Poe Dameron, on the desert planet Jakku. And so he has well, it's not really an astromech droid, I don't know what you call it, a BB unit is what they called it in the movie, or BB-8, everyone knows him now. And so he has the missing part of a map that R2 owns. This is revealed later in the movie, but he has a piece, let's just say he has a portion of the map that, you guys probably know this, obviously spoilers. He has the map that leads to Luke Skywalker, or at least a portion of it you would need to complete the map. Like a small portion of the galaxy in their universe that they have in the movie. So anyways, so he puts it in BB-8, and BB-8 runs off in the desert by himself. It's just like in episode 4 you had the droids separating off in the desert. Granted, it was a little bit different, but it's just, I think it was more of a just a homage, not really a ripoff. And it's not that much of a coincidence. And the reason they probably picked Jakku instead of just going back to Tatooine, because people say, wow, there's just a desert planet. It's almost exactly the same. They might have used Tatooine. The reasons, though, you can argue that they probably used a new planet is because Jakku's filmed in a different location. So maybe the colors wouldn't look right or something like that, and they wanted to use real locations. So the fans would have gotten mad if they had, I don't know, not filmed in a real location and then put CGI all over it. Although I think they could have gotten away with doing Tatooine, but the real reason they probably didn't do it is because they knew fans would say, hey, are you really doing this on Tatooine again? We've seen this planet everywhere. We want new planets. So that's fine. So that's just really homage, and the whole scene is really different from how Episode 4 is played out. Just the concept. So we see the scoundrel, which is Poe Dameron, and he's really different from Han Solo. Han Solo is just kind of this guy you run into, who wants to give you his ship if you pay money, and he's a real different character. Poe Dameron is confident and smart alecky, but he's nothing like Han Solo. So you can say he's a scoundrel. You know, he's the good-looking scoundrel or whatever. I don't know. You can say that. But beyond that comparison, there's really nothing more you could say about Han Solo versus Poe Dameron being too similar to each other. So he gives the information to BB-8, and Rey finds BB-8, and then the story goes on. And the next plot rehash is when they show you Starkiller Base. That's the only real I believe time where you get to see the plot. That looks familiar. Starkiller Base, the whole idea of it is not really new in terms of the original trilogy. I mean, even Return of the Jedi really ripped off the Death Star. Now, ripped off is a really bad term to say here, and I'm going to argue why. The Death Star is a really interesting concept. It's a super weapon, like a nuclear weapon. If you would have your nuclear weapon disassembled, like your second nuclear weapon, so you used a nuclear weapon, you blew up a city with it, or a city or two, you blew up Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and then you had your entire nuclear arsenal wiped out. And so then you acquire time, you get to regroup, and then you build another one. You don't get to use this one because your bomb's under construction. But the bomb has defensive capabilities, or I don't know. So the concept of Return of the Jedi versus the Death Star. The Death Star in the second one is larger, and it has a higher refresh rate. It can charge up quicker than the last one. The last one it seemed to take, I don't know, an hour or 20 minutes to recharge their super laser. This one, in Return of the Jedi, snap, snap, snap. They could just keep shooting it and destroy. It's like they could take the laser and charge up less energy, so they could just shoot little fleets just right out of the sky. And that's what made it really interesting. They improved on the weapon. They didn't just take the exact same weapon, because people say when they think of rehash, they just think of taking the exact same thing and using it over, because that would make the Empire look really clumsy. And, there are already problems. The stormtroopers, they're not very intimidating. They're always missing and always acting stupid. So why would you want a Death Star to make your enemy, make it so there's even less, you have less involvement in the story because you don't think your characters are at risk. Because you don't see it anywhere. So I can see where you're coming from. But the problem is that the Death Star was improved upon, and the idea of taking a super weapon and improving upon it and then using it again is really not unseen before. And that's something everyone in history's done, and it makes a lot of sense. And in Return of the Jedi, instead of just saying, oh, we're just gonna reuse the Death Star and add a couple little things to make it different so people don't get upset. It's more than that. It might have been that, but they ended up doing with the story, regardless of their original intentions, is they made the story unique. And they made the Emperor so he constructs a little plot, and you get to see how creepy he is with how much he controls his little puppet strings. He's like a little puppeteer, and he tricks everybody and deceives everybody in the movie. Oh, you think you can just destroy the Death Star? Oh no, it's fully operational. It may look incomplete, but it's not. Now, in the Starkiller base, unlike Return of the Jedi, they didn't even get to use the weapon to destroy multiple worlds. Starkiller base destroyed multiple planets. So, Starkiller base didn't just wipe out Alderaan, which was, I believe, the Rebel worlds. Yeah. Which is it wasn't as big of a blow to the Empire, the Rebellion. Because, they just made another one on Hoth. With this movie, they make it really obvious that because the Rebels in Episode 4 are really on Yavin 4. So when Alderaan was destroyed, Leia's homeworld or whatever or where her father resided was destroyed. But it was more like a tragedy, like one of the shootings we might have in the U.S. or France. It's kind of like that. It's a tragedy, but it's not a real military target. You can work around it, and you can form a plot around the concept of revenge in response to that. So Starkiller base, they don't just fire one laser. They fire one stream of projectiles, and they destroy multiple worlds. And the way they carry out the scene, I had to really admire, because they actually showed the reactions of the people just realizing they're about to get hit. In the original trilogy, it just seemed like the laser just went just instant, because And you could argue that's because they're really close. You know, there's a proximity factor you have to put in. Now, Starkiller Base, they're probably, I don't know how far they were away from the planets they were firing at. Who knows? That could be entirely irrelevant, but it took a while for the beams to get there, and they were a lot slower than they were in the original trilogy, because in the original trilogy, because right as the beam's approaching, you have to see it, it's like a meteor hitting. And when they filmed the reactions, it was intense, like you actually saw people upset. Remember, Star Wars is always, it's always intended to be some kind of classic sci-fi Flash Gordon serial. Star Wars is all about ripping things off. Now, you could say, well, Star Wars has been around long enough and has such a cultural influence that it should be able to separate from its roots and grow up. And to grow up like everything should, and, change, evolve in response to different audiences receiving the movie. Or the movies. Star Wars is really well known. But you can forgive plot rehashing. Even if there was far more plot rehashing in here, I could probably end up justifying it. I drew this today with a fountain pen. Took a little while, but it's supposed to be Anakin's lightsaber from Episode 3. And you can kind of tell because it has markings in here instead of lights from the old TI or calculator, whatever that calculator was. And it also has spikes in the grip area, or where the power switch. I think that's here, because everybody seems to agree, even in The Force Awakens, that the power switch is here. Anyways, so because it didn't have these in the original trilogy, it was just smooth all the way through here, and but it's pretty much the same, and I like it. I just googled an image and copied it, so then I cut it out as well and put it on Instagram or something like that. Sorry if I'm quiet. I have a family member sleeping, and I hope I'm audible. So I might have I'm probably gonna have a lot more videos on Star Wars topics in the future, because Star Wars nerd. That's just what I like. It could be other miscellaneous topics, like I've said before, probably in other videos, whether it's airsoft or something like that. I don't really have a dedication at all. That's probably when my subscription base is really low, and I wouldn't be surprised if I just want to say something, I just say it, and I just throw it out in the wind and hope it sticks, and I just have something to say, get it quick, do it quick, get it over with. Anyways, if you like my videos or my production quality or something like that, let me know. Encouragement would encourage me to make more stuff. Because I'm aware, because I know there are a lot of people who are bad at talking. I don't know if I'm like that or ranting. Maybe my production quality is not that great. I might have some slides in this video if I can figure out how to use Windows Movie Maker. Of course, that would kind of be a paradox to you guys if I've already put the effects in there and you guys are saying, well, you're saying this, and I already see stuff in there. Well, I haven't made the special effects yet, because I just have Windows Live Movie Maker. And I do everything in HD. I'm like a lot of noobs out there who use the software, which is known for use by noobs. Well, I at least know how to do some stuff with it, and I know how to do special effects with MS PowerPoint. And I do a lot of art, whether it's for the PC or, I've done shape art before. Here, I'll show you an example if you're interested. So I made an AK-47 on so I made that with PowerPoint with the shapes. I don't think I have any others on me. Oh, and in Spirit of The Force Awakens, so there was that picture of the lightsaber which I just showed, and that's great and everything, but I also, it's not as good my skills developed for copying things. This is Kylo Ren's lightsaber. So I drew a replica of that, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe, because unlike other topics I've done in the past, Star Wars is a passion of mine, and the Force has awakened. There'll be new movies, and we'll have Rogue One and a bunch of others, a bunch of anthology films coming out. So we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about over time. And I pre-ordered on iTunes the Force Awakens in HD, and that will come out on just a second. So today's December 25th, and it's on January 15th or something like that. It's only a few weeks away. It's like a month before the DVD release. So of course everybody could be doing it digitally now, because times have changed. I'm probably the only one who goes out and buys DVDs. I don't even have a Blu-ray player, but why do that when you could just use iTunes and get it in HD? So anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I really enjoy making videos on this topic. So encouragement or discouragement for me to make videos is appreciated, because I don't know, I don't like to make videos that suck, and I don't like force people to watch them. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a good time, have a good day. May the Force be with you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's all on. Alright, see you tomorrow. Yep, have a great afternoon.